Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 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 1, 2, 3. Testing car Lines for the sports hit list by the fans and for the fans. We are live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. So the YouTube is now live right now. Please make sure you check us out. NFL Wild Card Weekend. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been building up to. We got the fellas. Please join us here for a special lunch special breaking down this weekend's games. We got Mr. Travis McKay. Travis, how you doing, sir? What you having for lunch?
I don't know yet. I mean, I'm figuring out once I get out of here. I might maybe make me a little acai bowl. You know what I mean? We'll see what's on. You know what I mean. When you work from home, you got whatever's in your fridge for lunch. You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair. We got Manny Manos. Manny, I'm getting ready for that Royal Rumble party, baby. You know, as long it's NFL season, but it's also WrestleMania season. You know how those vibes go. How you doing, sir?
I just used my gift card to cop the CM Punk shirt, so I'm hyped. And then come next week, so I'll be ready for the Rumble. Got mad heads pulling up too, so it's gonna be lit.
Let's do it, Mr. Ricardo 18 out there. What's going on? What you having for lunch, sir? What's up?
Doing good, man. I decided not to commute down the stairs today and pulled up into the kept it cozy in the bedroom office. So,
Listen, Rick. The commute be killing you. I get it, Rick.
Yeah.
I get it. The commute from my room to my office, yo, it be hell like that. Traffic
sometimes it ain't
crazy
worth it, man. Be like,
you guys are wilding. Listen, some NFL breaking news. I know we got the Patriots just got a new head coach. Did you guys want to touch upon that before we get into the weekend games? What are your thoughts? It happened pretty fast. It's like they already knew how they wanted to move. No real move to kind of break one news one day and then the next is the following. Rick, what are your thoughts? Since you were following that story too.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you said, right? They knew what they wanted to do, which, I'm gonna say something that could be a little dicey, right? Like we look at the whole Rooney Rule situation, and I understand why it's in effect and why we need it. I get it, right? But in these types of situations, like I think it's okay to circumvent, right? Now, obviously, Gerard Mayo is a black coach who's now going to be a black head coach. So there's not going to be any public outcry about technically circumventing the Rooney Rule, right? But had he been a white head coach, we would have been hearing that. So I don't mind when a team knows they have a guy in-house that they are prepping and they are ready to put in place should their coach decide to move on or whatever the case may be. So something like this happening immediately doesn't surprise me, because I feel like if it's one thing we've learned during the stretch of Bill Belichick's tenure in New England, is that this is an organization that is extremely calculated and very well thought out. Every single move that they make is very well thought out meticulously. So them having a backup plan, a contingency plan in place, ready to set in motion 24 hours after what some call one of, if not the greatest head coaches in history, decides that his time there is done. It doesn't surprise me, simply because this is how this organization moves. So it's cool to see. Shout out to Gerard Mayo, man. Outside of, beyond today, it's FU because, obviously it's a division rival, but good to see him get a shot. I know the rumblings for Mike Vrabel were loud. Obviously, everybody expected that would be the thing. Now, let me say this, right? Had they brought Mike Vrabel in and said, this is the guy we wanted, even then, in a circumvention of the Rooney Rule, technically, I wouldn't have a problem with it, again, because it's somebody who is technically coming home that you have your eyes set on, more or less. So I think there are situations where when there is a guy 100% that you want no matter what, you can't fault an organization for making their move. So I'm really interested to see what he does moving forward. Being the youngest
the graphics for that game.
$37 is crazy. 37 years old, crazy.
Travis, what are your thoughts here, real quick?
Just to touch on a few things. Technically, they didn't circumvent the Rooney Rule because he was in house already. It was in his contract. They had a provision in his contract that was set up for him to. Because it's been rumored for at least a year or two that they had him kind of as the guy in waiting when Bill would retire. So it was set up in his contract that it's technically just a promotion. So technically they didn't have to go through the typical hiring process when it came to the coaching search. So technically, I mean, even though they didn't really circumvent the rule, but
so in-house appointments, in-house elevations are okay without having to go through the process. I'm asking just because I don't know.
I think it's kind of the same as when you go from firing your and you hire an interim coach. I think it's kind of the same thing from what I've heard.
In that sense, in that case, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's interesting because like you mentioned, the Vrabel rumors were loud, and I think looking at the situation, I think they went one of two ways. Going with Mayo shows that this Patriots team is in a rebuild place. I think if you go with Mike Vrabel, it's kind of a touch-up job. It's kind of somebody to come in and patch up, patch up the holes. But if you go with Gerard Mayo, I think you're telling your fan base and you're telling the world that, okay, we're kind of in a rebuild mode here. They have what, the number 3 pick, I believe, in the draft, going into the draft. So that's a pretty high pick, depending on, what you do with the offensive coordinator position. It depends on, do you bring in somebody who you believe, do you draft a quarterback, or do you bring in somebody who you believe can salvage Mac Jones, who, I mean, went to the Pro Bowl his rookie year. I mean, it's been kind of a shit show the past 2 years. But I mean, do you bring Josh McDaniels back as your OC? I mean, he obviously flourished under Josh McDaniels, so do you bring him back? So I mean, it's Gerard Mayo has a lot of decisions to make. Who are they going to bring in from a front office standpoint to help pair along with him to do the grocery shopping, as they like to say it?
Yeah.
Because Bill was carrying both. He was wearing both hats. So who do you bring in the front office to pair with Gerard Mayo to do, for your scouting purposes? I'm pretty sure they have somebody already in mind that they're going to bring in. They'll probably elevate somebody from the inside who was probably like head of scouting or whatever. You know what I mean? They'll probably throw him to GM or whatever. But so it's interesting to see what this organization does. I think they sent the clear message that, hey, Patriots are kind of in a rebuild mode right now. You know what I mean? Robert Kraft, he realized that this organization wasn't sustained. They weren't at the level that they were accustomed to, and so therefore he decided to, they both decided to mutually part ways. I'm interested to also see where Bill ends up. But
that's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, I'm curious to see where he goes next. Like,
this Patriots team is interested. They're in a rebuild mode, and we'll see what happens, down the road when it comes to, draft, and who they draft will answer a lot of questions. Do they take a quarterback at that position? Do they take some weapons, which the team desperately needs on the outside? So we'll see what happens.
Manny, what are your thoughts here, real quick?
Quick, let me add a little something to that. You mentioned a very, very quality point there regarding the GM position. And for me, I feel like moving forward, obviously depending on who comes in, I think the change there is going to be louder than the change at head coach, just because you would assume that Mayo is going to come in and still somewhat preserve that Patriot way type mindset and culture. Now, from the GM side, depending on who they bring in, if it's not somebody who's already within the building, we might start seeing a bit of a shift of the type of people that are being drafted and brought in free agency and whatnot. I think that's where we see a bigger change moving forward for the organization is what they're doing at the GM position as opposed to what they're going to be doing at the head coach position.
But do they want to keep the Patriot way? Because we've seen it doesn't work without Bill Belichick. Hell, we've seen it doesn't really work without Tom Brady, to be honest with you. But that's another story for another day.
Yeah, but it'll be a blueprint. It'll be a blueprint.
Right. So do you really want to still keep that way? I think it's time to, yes, you kept Gerard Mayo, but I think it's time to shift into a different direction, because we've seen it doesn't really work without Bill. We've seen his proteges go other places, and it's fall terribly. You know what I mean?
So my point is, I think a new GM would be the one to usher that in.
Somebody from the outside other than
Mayo.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Manny, what are your thoughts real quick?
I'll say I hope Jared Mayo comes up with his own stuff. Completely wipe out. I mean, again, he's in the position where we've seen from all types of sports when a legendary player or coach steps down and ends his tenure. I mean, right now you can look at Alabama right now with Nick Saban being gone. Who's going to step up? You know how big that is? for the next person to take it. I mean, I think you guys put it in the group chat a couple times where it was like it's literally the hardest to do. Where it's like you want the job, but then it's also look whose shoes you have to fill in. It's similar to what Didi Gregorius had to go through when Derek Jeter retired. Everybody was killing Didi Gregorius. And then it took a couple years, and then everybody started loving him again. Loving him. And then when he left, it was like, damn, man, I miss Didi and stuff like that. So I just hope Jerry Mayo comes up with his own. I hope he gets to have a full opportunity to do everything his way, in a way. Like I feel like the Patriot way to me died a long time ago. Like the moment Brady and Belichick blew up, because it doesn't work out anyway. And you can also say the only person that's been successful under Belichick's regime, like his coaching staff and stuff, was Mike Vrabel, if I'm not mistaken.
And he wasn't technically he doesn't even come from his tree, because he never coached under Belichick. He coached under Bill O'Brien, which I mean, Vrabel's kind of an extension of the tree because Bill O'Brien came from from New England, but technically Vrabel never even coached under Belichick.
I will tell you this: I'll definitely keep my eye out for Jerry Mayo to see how he does. Honestly, I hope he does well in his, out of respect, but it's still screw the Patriots. I don't care.
That being said, we have some playoff games to get underway. Kicking off the AFC, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans on NBC at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Travis, what's your pick?
Going back and forth on this game, because if we go back to the game that they played, 3 weeks ago, the Browns won that game, but there was no CJ Stroud. Joe Flacco went out there and balled out, and it's still F Joe Flacco, because that was the week he bumped me out the fantasy league playoffs.
Stop taking it personal, man. Come on.
nah.
We're supposed to be professionals.
Everybody else get to hold grudges on here. I got to hold a grudge for it. It's Joe Flacco for a while, But what's gone unnoticed? Yes, Joe Flacco has gone out there and balled out, since he's come to the Browns, but he's also thrown a lot of interceptions. If you look at it, the interception numbers are kind of crazy for the amount of games that he's played. Granted, they've had to air it out a lot, so when you got to air it out, sometimes you throw interceptions. But we have this Texans team coming. Like I said, CJ Stroud didn't play in that first game, so and the Texans kind of held. They were still kind of in the game, which is why they kind of held their own for a little bit there until it got out of hand. But we've seen this Texans team be different under CJ Stroud. We've seen that this team responds to him in a different type of way, that they go out there and they play harder and that they play better with CJ Stroud. So, I mean, it's at home again for them, because the first game was at home. I'm going to go with the Texans on this one. I think CJ Stroud has something that he finds a way to make the players around him better. You know what I mean? He elevates that team, and I think he's going to go out there and elevate that team against a Browns team who we still can't forget. Yes, they're in the playoffs. Yes, they won 11 games. This is still a very injured team. I mean, this team, I think they got like the highest amount of injured reserve players in the league. You know what I mean? They started 5 quarterbacks this season. You know what I mean? There's still a team that they're still kind of they don't have all their full horses at their availability. So I'm going to go with the Texans on this one, right?
Manny?
I'm going Texans. Shout out to CJ Stroud. Hope he can come off and pull off the win. It's not going to be an easy win. I think it's going to be a really close game. Shit, I might even call overtime, to be honest. A game-winning field goal to end it. It can go either way. I mean, I feel the Texans have the most. I feel like the Browns have the most to lose than the Texans, and this is a perfect example of experience versus, like
youth.
The youth. Yeah, exactly. So, I wouldn't let's see how Stroud does, because it'll just get people talking. Depending on his performance, like if he balls out and somehow they still lose, but by a field goal, it's gonna get the league talking like, "Yo, this guy is a rookie, came into this league played in his first playoff game against a really good defense, and he did what he could. So it's like there's something to fear for the future of that division alone, in all honesty. So I'm going Texans. Give me Texans 23-20.
Hold on, Carl. Before you go to Rick Rivera, can we just point out the irony of this game real fast? This is I guess technically the Deshaun Watson-less bowl. I guess you go from the Deshaun Watson's old team to his new team, and Deshaun Watson not even playing. That's the funny part about it. But hey.
Rick.
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of that last point that Travis just made, like this, I had posted, we've been talking about it in the chat and whatnot, like this entire first round of the playoffs is just storyline after storyline after storyline. Like just about every single game's got major just built-in storylines. So again, shout out to the script writers, because Super Wildcard Weekend is shaping up to be just quality NFL playoff football. Now with that said, the youth versus experience thing is a big key, right? Just because we know from top to bottom that Houston Texans team is young. I mean, crazy young, right? This is a team that's well ahead of schedule, that nobody had, having a winning record, let alone making the playoffs, let alone winning division and hosting a playoff game, So they're here against all odds and have some, some injuries to deal with themselves. I mean, Tank Dell specifically comes to mind, the type of rookie season he was having and what he brought to that offense, right? So, like Travis mentioned, something about CJ Stroud, man. I mean, it's cliche and whatnot to say we don't generally see rookie quarterbacks have this type of command over an offense, this type of command and leadership over a team almost immediately. But there's definitely something to say about what he brings to that team. He really does elevate that entire team. And they've got talent all over the board. Now, on the flip side, you're looking at a Browns team who is now coming in a little steady now, right? These last down the stretch of the season now, I think they really went a long way towards kind of re-identifying what they are on offense behind Joe Flacco, and they've kind of nailed it right in the nick of time to be able to get prepped for a playoff run, right? All the talk now is looking ahead, get past the Texans, and potentially we get that Flacco versus Ravens matchup and whatnot. I honestly think we're going to get an amazing game. It's going to go back and forth, similarly to what Manny mentioned. Could be one of those last second field goal, even overtime victories. I think the kids are going to be able to pull it off. Something about CJ Stroud has me thinking that he's going to be able to get these guys over the hump and take this victory. So give me the Texans.
We got Esco in the comments. Thanks for pulling up, bro. He said Stroud versus Miles. Is that tough defense, or Flacco seeing the same defense with a better O-line? Listen, I'm going with the experience, man. It's hard. I got to go with the experience. I know we love the kid, but we always say the experience prevails. And given the fact that Flacco is a Super Bowl champ, and as Rich said, you got the Ravens probably looming for a matchup, I'm going to take the Browns here. Everyone else is going Texans. I'm going to go with the Browns. Our 8 p.m. game Eastern time, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been watching some Peacock stuff. They're promoting this game to be exclusively on Peacock only. Dolphins versus Kansas City Chiefs. So that's the movement, is this game is on Peacock. Is that true?
Yes.
Outside of the local markets,
yes. Yeah, outside of local markets. So nationally, you can only exclusively watch. And Peacock's pretty cheap. It's only $5 a month. It's not that expensive. So
it's just that people don't listen. First of all, streaming is getting nuts out here. Okay? You might as well go back.
So now we don't like streaming? Oh, you see?
No. I never said that. I still
be careful what you say, because the professor is Team Cable. Be careful what you say.
I stream my cable. So shout out to we're not shouting them out. They don't give us no money. But
yeah, facts. But shout out to them.
We know who they talking about. You know what I mean? But nah, I'm just saying. Listen, I got Peacock. I'm on somebody else's thing. We all know how that goes. But this was lame by the NFL. I mean, I get it.
It's apparently bro. It's marketing.
NBC and Peacock apparently put up like $100+ million just to get this one game, which is crazy.
But that's what we should, yeah. But you know what? Like I said, the business is shifting. It's always like we said, we have this conversation. Cable, streaming passed cable last year officially by like 2% in terms of rating wise, right? So if they're gonna exclusively make it on Peacock, they're trying to garner their audience more towards away from national TV, like broadcast TV, so they can get more people on streaming. So it's just a marketing technique.
Yeah, in the long run, it's gonna, yeah, like you said, in the long run, it's a good move. But for right now, you got people like my grandmother. She don't know how to get to Peacock. She barely know how to work.
But that's what she got you for, bro.
So
I live in North Carolina, man. I can't listen. Trying to get her to figure this out over the phone is just like, yo.
But to the game itself, though, Rick, I'm gonna let you go last because I know this is your baby. But
one thing before we even start breaking down the game, here's a question on the Peacock standpoint. And Travis, you may know this or not. I know I would imagine the deal to get an exclusive game was done way back when, right?
Mhm.
But to specifically get this game, do you know when that decision might have been made by any chance or no?
I think I would assume when they determine, because they didn't do the schedule until last week. But put it like this: you put up $100-something million, the NFL gonna give you Patrick Mahomes.
And
Yes.
Taylor Swift.
There you go. So that was my
That's
next
what it
point.
is.
That was my
Taylor
next
Swift.
point.
Yeah.
You put up
respectfully-
$100+ million for one game. They're gonna give you Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Listen,
Yeah, 'cause
respectfully,
you're bridging the gap with your audience.
Peacock doesn't care if our grandmas can watch the game tomorrow. They care that all Swifties are going to pay $5 for
They care
at
about
least
your
1 month.
they
of
care about your
Peacock
kids
starting
and your
tomorrow.
and your god kids if they
That's
watch
it.
the game.
So
Right.
Swifties are definitely pulling up to those subscriptions.
Listen, Esco said he didn't even know about it. So clearly, us telling people it's good information to know that this game is exclusively on Peacock. So that 8 o'clock game, you want to watch it. Manny, who's your
NBC, if y'all want Universal
Yeah,
and NBC, if y'all want to cut us a check, we'll take it. You know
Right?
what I mean?
Helping y'all out here.
We helping y'all out.
Manny, who you got here? I mean, clearly the favorites would be the Chiefs, but I think the Dolphins got something to prove here.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
You asking already? Be honest.
Your sound's coming in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Nah, a little muffled.
You sound trash.
Yeah, let me go to Travis first, and then we'll come back to you. Travis, go ahead.
First of all, I mean, like you said, the Chiefs are probably the favorite. Man, the weather is probably the favorite. We talking frigid temperatures in there. They talking -5 wind chill factor. You know what I mean? Listen, when Miami lost that game this is why that game last week was so important to Miami, because this determined whether they would go on the road or if they would have a home playoff game. So now it's crazy because, yeah, you lost that game, you're on the road, and now they said you probably was going to be one of the coldest games in like NFL history. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's kind of crazy. And listen, I know they say cold is a fact, especially if you're a team from Miami. Like, listen, especially your quarterback, you know what I mean? You got to think about his life. Tua grew up in Hawaii. He played in Alabama. He ain't never really been. I mean, he's probably played in a few cold games, but he probably ain't played in nothing like this before. You know what I mean? That whole Miami team it's gonna be a shock for everybody. It's gonna be cold, man. But to sit here and say that Kansas City is the clear favorite, I can't necessarily sit there and say that, because we've seen this Kansas City team not be the Kansas City team of old. You know what I mean? They've had trouble at the wide receiver position. You know what I mean? Travis Kelce hasn't put up the numbers that he's accustomed to putting up over the past few years. So we can't necessarily sit here and say that they're the clear favorites. The Kansas City Chiefs have low-key been carried by their defense for most of the year. You know what I mean? So here you are. This is another rematch from the year. Where was this game at, Rick? This was a Germany game, I believe? Yeah. This game was over in Germany where Kansas City took this game. So now you have Tyreek Hill getting his second opportunity to actually come to Arrowhead and play in front of his former team and their fan base. So it's going to be an interesting game. I heard somebody make an interesting comparison. They said Miami's offense is like a Ferrari, and Ferraris don't run well in the snow, in the cold. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we'll see what this team does. We've seen it throughout the season. This offense has had trouble when they're facing above level competition. You know, they do pretty good against the average and below level competition, but when they face teams that are above level, they struggle. The offense gets a little, typical high power offenses. Sometimes they don't show up. Miami, their offense is going to have to show up, especially because there's a lot of injuries on that team I would say, defensive standpoint, especially from a pass rush. I mean, they basically going to be putting out there 2 new pass rushers. I said it in the chat the other day. Vic Fangio, he's gonna have to find a way to generate some pass rush. He's got to find a way because he doesn't have his main pass rushers. But if you sit back there and Patrick Mahomes, I don't care how bad the weapons are outside. Any quarterback, you sit there and let them sit back in the pocket for 6 to 7 seconds, they're gonna find a way to pick you apart. So you have to find a way to disrupt Patrick Mahomes' rhythm. I'm interested to see how that goes, but I'm gonna give.
Speaking of which, sorry to cut you off, Travis, but I know you hate these stats, but this may play into your favor. The Dolphins, when in the past 10 games, when they kick off in temperature that was 40 degrees or below, they're 0-10, and they've lost those 10 games by an average of 17 points.
Okay, Carl, that's a relevant stat right there. See, I mean, it's relevant because those are that's the reason I hate some of those stats is because a lot of the times those players aren't even on this team anymore. Those stats go back like multiple years. You know what I mean? Sometimes decades.
Yeah. So
but we have a situation where
the last 10 games,
right. So therefore, I think this is a situation where it turns out it's a cult. I don't want to say culture thing. It's just. It's an adaptation thing. Like, you live in Miami, like you're not used to this type of weather. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is somewhat of has a mental effect on you sometimes. You know what I mean? When you're so used to certain climates. Like if Rick right now if he went to the Kansas City game, he gonna feel it. You know what I mean? Sitting in the stand.
He's from New York. Like
it don't matter.
Listen,
he been living in Florida. How long you been living in Florida?
Listen, I understand your point, but with me it's different. I gladly and willingly go. Like, no, I'm worse off in Florida in August than I am in any cold weather state in January and February.
It sounds good, but with -5 wind chill,
so that means you're going with the Chiefs.
Real fast.
You're going with the Chiefs.
I'm gonna take the Chiefs on this one, man. I'm gonna take the home field, the weather. Miami's trouble offensively when it comes to certain competition, and then plus the injuries. I mean, the Chiefs ain't, like I said, Chiefs ain't been the Chiefs, but I'm gonna go with the Chiefs on this one. I think Patrick Mahomes has enough to find a way.
Manny, Still can't hear you, bro.
We can't hear you, R2D2.
All right, let's go to Rick. Rick.
Yeah, so I mean, great points by Travis, right? I mean, the cold weather thing for me, I'm not too necessarily worried about that. The 0-10, over the past 10 games. I mean, if without knowing exactly what those games are off the top of my head, we play in a division where we are the only team that plays in a warm area. So the 3 other teams in our division play up north in the Northeast where it is cold. So I would imagine there's going to be some divisional games in there.
Half was probably Buffalo and New England.
A lot of them are Buffalo. Yeah, so that stat for me doesn't really kind of make me nervous as much. Cold weather game, right? What do you expect? Generally speaking, they're going to say it's not going to be a lot of passing, especially if it's windy and it's snow. You're going to have to run the ball. Well, we got a pretty damn good running game, right? On top of that, our strength running is on the outside, which is the weakness for that Kansas City defense. Last week, we saw something that we've been dying to see is Devon Achane come back and look like the same Devon Achane we saw at the beginning of the year in a premier role, right? They featured him. So assuming we're able to get Raheem Mostert come back and he's as close to 100% as possible, and we've seen a flip where Achane can be the premier back and we kind of offset with Mostert. I think we're going to see some good things on the offensive side, specifically out of the running game. Now, again, we talk about the cold weather this, cold weather that. The best player on our team played most of his
I was going to say that, but I was waiting for you. I was going to give you that
cold weather.
I was going to give you that alley, but I was waiting for you to give me. I was going to give you that alley. I thought of that too.
So when our absolute best player, the best guy who's gonna be on the field, right? Because maybe it's him or Mahomes, you would say, right? He's used to it as well. So I'm not worried about it. On the offensive side, from a health perspective, we're coming in fairly healthy, which is good. Healthier than we've been for a while on the offense. So I'm happy to see that. The defensive side is gonna be a test. we're gonna have to get pressure from the inside. This is gonna have to be a DT type of game. We're gonna need Christian. We're gonna need Zach Seiler. Those two dudes, man, the buddy system that they got going on at that DT position in the middle, that's where we're going to have to get the pressure. We're going to have to blow up that offensive line straight down the middle to be able to make sure that Patrick Mahomes does not have enough time to get comfortable back there and find his receivers. My biggest concern, the thing that I came away with last week more than anything, was something that we hadn't seen all season, something I hadn't seen all season. Miami offensively played a little bit scared in the second half last week. That's not something we've come to see from Mike McDaniel specifically. His play calling was very reserved in the second half, very lackluster. And I'm not quite sure what was going on there, what the mindset was there in the second half of last week's game. That's what we cannot see tomorrow, right? We need the wild and crazy, goofy, quirky, aggressive Mike McDaniel's play calling tomorrow. We can't have that vanilla ass offense that we saw in the second half of last week's game. So all things considered, obviously, yes, I'm a fan. Obviously, yes, I'm gonna be taking the Dolphins, but I don't think it's as far-fetched as everybody is making it seem that the Dolphins are gonna go in there, freeze to death, and get blown out. I think we're gonna see a great game, and I do think having played them already, even though it was way out in Germany, helps, right? Because now, granted, it wasn't in front of that fan base. That's going to add a little bit of difference to this part of my argument. But Tariq has had an opportunity to kind of get some of those butterflies out already. He's gone up against them, and we saw, specifically in that fumble, in that game, there was a big fumble in that game in Germany that kind of turned the tides a little bit. That's something that I feel like comes with trying to go out and do too much, trying to be the guy against your team. I'm banking on he's gotten that out of his system, and he's going to be a lot more comfortable out there tomorrow. I think the fact that it is in Kansas City is actually a plus for Tyreek. I think it's going to give him a little bit of those flashbacks to his element. I think he has a big game. The running game is going to be cooking. Give me my guys, man.
I'm sorry.
Yo, you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, just breaking news real quick. The final Raw before WrestleMania will be at the Barclays Center. I'm just putting it out there. I'm sorry. I just got the
Wait, after
before WrestleMania, the final Raw before.
Oh, the go home. Okay.
The go home is at Barclays. I'm about to get my tickets. Let me.
All right, thinking Carl about to come with some coaching news or something.
I'm sorry. I'm just talking.
WrestleMania season, bro.
Yeah, you already know. Emmanuel, what's your pick? Go ahead, fam.
Give me the Dolphins. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. Why would a Raider fan root for the Chiefs? I mean, I love to see them be disappointed. Let's be honest. Travis, stop it. I'm getting tired of crap.
Carl talking about me holding grudges. Come on now.
Holding grudges. I mean, I stay consistent though, Travis. This is the problem. You don't have no issues with teams in your division, even though you're at the bottom. You always show this kind of lovey-dovey thing, like, yo, bro, you're SpongeBob. Settle down, my man.
It ain't lovey-dovey. I focus on my team.
Yeah, and then you start rooting for other teams in your division. Like, what's going on?
I ain't rooting for them. I don't root for them. I just don't care what they do.
You made a lot of picks regarding choosing them, especially against your own team. So that's even crazier.
That's being realist. My team is ass.
Realist.
When your team, you want me to go ahead and make a fake pick because of my heart? That ain't no good. You gotta be logical. Come on now, my team's trash. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Just keep saying that. I enjoy this. Definitely call clip this. I just enjoy.
So you definitely got the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, by a touchdown. But again, it's the Chiefs, so some controversial play is going to happen to help them. So
we move along to Sunday's games. AFC matchup on CBS, 1:00 Eastern Standard Time. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Now, listen, if we're going to talk about Mike Tomlin, that's a separate segment because we've been having this conversation for years. Let's not even try to address that.
Reno, where you at?
Let's not try to address that because that's a whole conversation. Who we got here? Trav, I'm going to start with you.
And this is going to be I don't think this game is going to be as interesting. I think the weather's calling for snow in this game. I'm not exactly sure. I think I heard reports of snow. I asked at the beginning of the week, I said, we got to start looking at somewhat. Pittsburgh has a little bit of we're not there yet, but off season, got a little bit of quarterback controversy because at this point, Kenny Pickett ain't still hurt. I mean, I understand that the fact that you still running with you got to run with the hot hand and Mason Rudolph. He's gotten you here. You know, what I mean, he won those last games or two. He's went out there. He's looked good. So I just found that interesting. There will be no T.J. Watt, so you're going into a playoff game on the road against a monster of a quarterback without your best player on defense and your best player on your team, essentially. So I'm gonna pick the Bills on this one. Hopefully we saw Josh Allen. He went out there last week. He put on like I said, he had to put on the cape, the Superman cape, and sometimes he can be Superman, sometimes he could be Bizarro. You know what I mean? Last week he was Superman. Hopefully he'll be Superman again this week. So I'm gonna pick the Bills on this one, man.
Manny?
I'm going against the Bills. As much as I hate the Steelers and everything, I just want to see Josh Allen fail. Sorry, not sorry. At this point.
Emotional picks. Emotionals.
Nah, it's the playoffs. There's nothing but emotion in this. Settle down here.
Rick?
Come on. My team's not in this, so I gotta hate. Play haters ball, bro. Come on.
If that ain't the most
Wow.
hating thing I ever heard in my
Said the
life,
player
my team
haters
ain't in
ball.
this, so I gotta find other people to hate
He said
on.
player
That's
haters
crazy.
ball. Wow. Rick, who you got, sir?
This is a trap game for the Bills, man. I think listen, again, y'all know I'm a Dolphin fan and whatnot, but y'all know I try to keep it as real as possible all the time. The Bills escaped out of Miami with a win last week, right? I mean, as ridiculous as we looked on offense in the second half, as shredded as our defense was, they played a hell of a game, right? You're talking a punt return for a touchdown in which one of our defenders got hurt, went down, took out another defender that opened the lane for the punt return, and a touchdown in which it's tipped at the line of scrimmage, and the wide receiver just makes a really amazing play to track the ball and catch it at the back of the end zone. Buffalo didn't play a good game last week. Buffalo didn't play a game worthy of winning a divisional championship last week.
Rick,
I think the Dolphins were just
I gotta interrupt you on that one. Did they escape or did they take that one? I feel like they took that. Escape is such a I don't know, Rick. That might be the Dolphin. That might be the Dolphin fan in you coming out right there, man. But go ahead.
You didn't watch the replay of that punt return? You're telling me they took that?
I mean, listen.
A batted ball in the air where the defender I guess the defender is thinking, it's batted in the air. I don't need to track the receiver, and leaves him in the back to make a very, very good catch. Against that depleted defense. That should have been taking that game would have been a 14, 17, 20 type point win. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that said,
it was in your house.
That was my next point. With that said, they needed that game. Well, when I say they needed to win that game more than anything, is because having the advantage of now being in Buffalo is great, right? You said it was in our house. Technically, it wasn't. We watched that game. That was flooded with blue, unfortunately, and it's sad to see. So with everything combined, that's not a game they took. That's a game that they stumbled out of, and like, damn, thank God we got that one, right? So I don't think they're as dominant as they want to be. They're going to be riding a high. They may look at the Steelers and assume, like you said, no TJ Watt coming into our house. Oh, we got this. But Josh Allen can go out and throw 3 interceptions in the first half and put you in a situation that you don't want to be in, right? We've seen it happen time and time again. So for me, coming off the high of finishing the season the way they did, escaping elimination from the playoffs, still managing to win the division, and potentially overlooking the Steelers, it's a recipe for disaster for the Buffalo Bills. With that said, I'm still going to pick the Bills, but this is going to be a game that will be in the group chats with about 5, 4, 3 minutes left. Like, oh shit, are the Bills about to get bumped from the playoffs? Watch.
All right.
Ray would hate that because then Mike Tomlin wins a playoff game. He in the comments right now talking about
we here for it. We here for it.
Smoke and Mirrors already did this breakdown, but we didn't break it down yet. This has actually been doing well on our YouTube page, so go support the video, watch the video. It's already almost at 500 views and up. We got the 4:30 time slot. We got the Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. Manny.
Yo, right now, you know how I feel about your bum ass team. Cowboys is losing. Shout out to Jordan Love. Hope he steps up and cooks.
Travis, that's it.
This
That's it.
is
Quick to the point.
right. I think this one will be the game of the weekend. I don't know if people I don't know if we're underestimating how good this game could be. You have the Cowboys who are at home, who are phenomenal at home. I don't know what the home record is, but they've been phenomenal over the past, at least this season, I think plus. And then you have a hot Green Bay team who's coming in there, you know what I mean, who when they're clicking on all cylinders, I think they can hang with the Cowboys from an offensive standpoint. We seen Seattle go in there. What was that? The week after Thanksgiving or somewhere along that time, they went in there and Seattle put up points on that defense in that house. So it's possible. You know what I mean? I think it's hard. As much as I hate the Cowboys, as much as the Cowboys do the most dumbest things when it comes to playoff time, it's hard for me to pick against them at home because they've been so dominant at home. If this was in Green Bay, I would probably pick Green Bay. But I'm gonna pick the Cowboys in this one simply because of the dominance that they've had at home, and they have been playing well. Let me not throw that dismiss that. The Cowboys have been playing well overall, the past month or so, which is like I've always say is the time you want to start getting hot. So I'm gonna go with the Cowboys on this one, man. I think if they but you Rick picked the last game as the trap game. This is my trap game. Do not let these Cowboys go out here and lose. Oh man.
Ricks.
Coming in hot right off of the last thing that Travis just said. This is an absolute must-win game for the Cowboys, right? Cowboys.
That's always the case, though, bro.
Yes, true.
Because it's the Cowboys.
This game, though, something about this game, this position that they're in, this spot, right? The Cowboys lose this game, you got to assume Mike McCarthy, his seat is hot as hell. He may be out of there, right? But beyond that, I think we might actually see a situation where the Cowboys lose this game. You're on the brink, if not at the point where you might need to look at trying to blow this thing up and say it may not be able to work as constructed. They've gotten very close far too many times over the past couple of years. And in this situation, you're up against a marquee franchise like the Packers. Obviously, there's the Mike McCarthy connection between the two. You've got two of the biggest brands out there. Jordan Love is coming in here, kind of in a similar mindset of CJ Stroud. Granted, not a rookie, but first time kind of taking that helm and having a full season to himself, following up Aaron Rodgers and whatnot. Everything considered, in this spot, as big of a game as this is, and like I said, I think anybody who is not looking at this game as one of the premier matchups of the weekend is bugging, because it absolutely is, simply on face of the brands involved alone. But then now when you put in all of the additional storylines, the Cowboys have to win this game. Even if they win this game and then potentially lose next in the next round, not as bad, right? But if you lose this game, like Travis said, right, you've been as dominant as you are at home. All we've heard is, hey, get the Cowboys at home and they'll be fine. Yeah, on the road, da-da-da-da-da. Get them at home and they'll be fine. They lose this game, man, there's going to be far more questions than any other organization is going to need to answer in this offseason. So I think they'll be ready. I think they're going to bring, that Cowboys home vibe that we've seen all season. I'm anticipating Dak coming out and having one of those games that had folks thinking he was a potential MVP at random times throughout the season. So yeah, give me the Cowboys.
In our Sunday night matchup.
Shout out to Ray in the comments talking about this game ain't they hard to pick. Ray riding a high right now. Shout out to Michigan. Shout out to you and Manny. Shout out to Michigan. Y'all won the national championship. Ray riding the high right now. You can't tell him nothing.
No, it's well deserved for sure. I mean, I'll say this. I think there'll be other members of the hit list who see championships by the end of this season. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
Paul, shut up. You're not. No.
There you go.
Stop it.
Here you
Stop
go.
it.
That's all I
He
said.
already,
I said
he
what I
already did the
said.
jinx, guys.
I
He
said
already
what
did
I
the
Here you
jinx.
said.
go.
I said what I
Saw the
said.
clip.
Our Haitians, we're gonna ride championships. That's all I'm saying. In the Sunday night matchup on NBC, we got the Rams versus the Lions. I guess this is the return home.
They put this
game.
on Sunday night. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's a Sunday night matchup.
I
Yep.
like that.
Look at
The
game.
Sunday night matchup. Trav, who you
Good
got?
job by the
Good
NFL.
booking. Great booking.
Good
Yeah, good
job.
booking.
You got the script writers. Whew.
Script
All
writers.
weekend, bro. All weekend. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Listen, y'all did your thing on this one.
He worked.
You got
Overtime,
Matthew
right?
Stafford, former Detroit Lion quarterback, returning to Detroit, to play Jared Goff, former Rams quarterback, now in Detroit. I think even Matthew Stafford's wife got she chiming in on some comments and some places on Twitter. This game gonna be good, man. This is a sleeper game. I think Detroit is I would assume Detroit is the favorite in this game. But the Rams team, they're sneaky, man. They've been a sneaky team all season. They had a slow start. They had some injuries along the way. But Matthew Stafford and that offense has been playing well lately. They've been playing really well. They have the ability to go in Detroit and to get this win simply because you come with a run game. In the playoffs, what do I say? Teams that have a run game and a defense that travels, they tend to do well in the playoffs. But Detroit, I just think Detroit's defense has been a little up and down throughout the season. I think we can all admit that they've been on a little bit of a roller coaster. They've had their moments where they were playing a little good. They had a slump, and then they kind of bounced back against around December, around the Denver game. That's when they started to kind of get back on track a little bit. I think as long as Detroit has a formula, and as long as they're able to stick to their formula, I think they'll be good. As long as they're able to stick to that run game, play action, I think they'll be good. And I'm going to pick Detroit in this one. Simply, it's home team. I think Detroit's a tiny bit better, but the Rams come at there. They've been playing well. This is going to be a good game to watch. I'm going to go with Detroit on this one, though.
Manny.
Give me the Lions by 3 touchdowns. By 3 points. I say a game-winning drive by Jared Goff will be kind of like a little bit of a poetic justice in a way, and it'll be good for the city of Detroit. With all the stuff that's been going on with them, it's been, how long is the drought? 46 years or some shit? Last time they won a playoff game?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you right now, it's great. It's what you want, because it's crazy because whoever wins doesn't matter, but if the Rams win, it's like Stafford finally won a playoff game for Detroit, in a way. If you're in Detroit, you would say. But I feel like Jared Goff wants to prove. Definitely, I believe it's a revenge game for him. Because what perfect scenario do you want to get back at the franchise that lets you go and obviously won a championship without you? I'm just saying, and a lot of those, shout out to their coach as well, because he has those guys wanting to go to war with him. So shout out to those coaches that the players got nothing but love for and will fight for them. So give me the Lions by 3 points.
I feel like there was a Raiders themed shout out in there, low key. Like I hear it. I hear the undertone.
I hear the bass in his voice.
It was the shout out to those teams,
right? Who fight for him.
The real nigga.
Ready to run through the wall.
It's been 32 years, 11,694 days since the Lions last advanced with a playoff win. The longest drought in the NFL by 9 seasons, and the longest in any sport by the 4 major sports.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see.
You all right?
We see.
I got a message. What was that? Give me that again. I'm sorry.
It's been 32 years, 11,694 days since the Lions last advanced with a playoff win. The longest drought in the NFL by 9 seasons, and the longest in any other 4 major sports.
I think the drought ends this weekend.
Right? You agree? You co-sign?
I say it ends this weekend.
Yeah, so Travis touched up on it, right? We've got two really rock solid running games coming into this matchup, which is going to be awesome to see, right? So both quarterbacks have benefited from being able to not have to do too much and just doing exactly what they need throughout the season within the passing game, right? That's generally the type of formula you want to have, right, when you're building a team. I think as far as Laporta is concerned, he is slated to be okay to go. I don't know if that's been official yet. That's going to be a
Forgot
big
about
key.
that.
That's going to be a big key because him going down last week, was definitely scary for them and whatnot. Now, um, again, great matchup. The script just writes itself, right? So having this in a prime time slot is going to be awesome to see. So I'll be the first one right here to congratulate the city of Detroit. After all of that time, you guys are finally going to see Matt Stafford win a playoff game in Detroit. Give me the Rams.
I like that setup right there.
That's a nice
That
setup. That's
That
nice.
was a good
That was
setup.
brilliant. That was brilliant.
That was a good
That's
one.
the clip of the week, Carl. Carl's about to clip
job.
that. I'm about to
Good
clip that right
job.
now. I'm about to clip that right now.
Oh,
That's the
God.
clip of the week. That's
That
the
was a
clip of
good
the week. Clip of the week. That's the clip of the week. Oh my God. That'll do it here. God, yeah.
I mean, like I said, I
no.
forgot about
Yeah,
that.
what you mean that'll do it? You
Oh,
trying
one
to
more.
you try, you
I
you
forgot.
trying to just you just trying to keep Martin
You know
Luther King
what
Day,
that is?
huh?
You know what that is? You know what that
Think
is?
you just gonna keep MLK Day and we ain't going?
Right, because it's MLK Day. He think he about to keep it for the NBA. No, we coming to take that. And Carl, I told you, I don't know if you've seen it in the group chat, but I told you, guess what's coming 2025 on MLK Day?
It's a wrap.
College national championship game. That's gonna be played MLK Day next year.
Anyway,
Ooh.
the
No,
Eagles.
anyway that. Face it.
Anyway,
The NBA has lost. We done took Christmas.
We don't care
and
about days no more. It's okay.
Oh, now we
Y'all
don't care
good.
about
Listen,
days no more.
listen.
Wow.
listen, you're good, man. Valentine's Day is all you, yo. Go ahead. You good?
I'm not available.
Right, y'all got it. Y'all got it. Y'all got it.
Debbie Day. That's Debbie Day.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, y'all got
hold that down.
Take that.
It don't matter for Valentine's Day. That's Debbie Day. I don't have
Y'all
that
better
day
start
anymore.
putting hearts on the court. Y'all better market the hell out of that.
Would you get some of you watching some basketball? That's what's gonna happen. Like,
Right.
So,
Wait,
there is news
that's the
for
plan right
upcoming
there.
game, by
That's
the
how.
way.
Well, listen, we all know how to. We all know how the money gets spent. You know what I mean? We all know what women like to spend money. Tell them, hey, you want to
You know what's
surprise your
funny
man?
about that though?
You want to surprise your man with a good gift? Get him some tickets to a
You
game.
know what's so funny about that? When I used to care about the All-Star game, it used to be on Valentine's Day weekend.
Right.
So I would literally like load up and get Deb whatever she wanted so I could watch the game at night. Legit. That's how it used to be. But now I don't care for it. I don't really care for the All-Star game. Eagles versus Tampa Bay Bucks. That's the Monday night primetime game, Travis.
This game is, I would say, the most interesting. No, I can't say the most interesting game. It's the Eagles are, I would say, the most interesting team in the playoffs because they are. I mean, it's the NFL has rebranded this as Super Wild Card Weekend. The Eagles are the ultimate wild card. I could see the Eagles getting bumped out Monday night. I could see the Eagles potentially winning the Super Bowl. They're one of those teams because they're so talented that, you know, the you know, that phrase of flipping the switch. You know, that's, you know, sometimes some teams are able to flip the switch, some teams aren't. I could see the Eagles getting hot and, you know, riding that all the way through the playoffs. Or we can see them continue to struggle the way they have. I don't know what the injury status the availability of certain players will be. I believe AJ Brown hasn't practiced yet. I saw reports that Jalen Hurts, his finger is still. They said he hasn't thrown a ball since Sunday, which is concerning. So I mean, I don't think the final injury report doesn't have to come out till probably tomorrow or Sunday, seeing how the game is on Monday night. You're rolling in against Tampa, who's been a little bit of an up and down team, shake and bake. We've all kind of rooted for Baker Mayfield here, you know what I mean, because we like seeing him play well. But I don't think they get this one. I think the Eagles, you know what, every time I pick the damn Eagles, they lose. The Eagles, they're gonna I gotta believe they find a
So then don't pick them so they can win.
I want to see what the final injury report is because if AJ Brown ain't playing, I don't know what Devontae Smith's status is. And as Jalen Hurts' finger is messed up on his throwing hand, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? So right now, I'm going to tentatively pick the Eagles, assuming that at least A.J. Brown plays and that Jalen Hurts is good enough to go. I'm going to pick them to win. Tampa has a very stingy run game. A run defense. So running the ball, which hasn't necessarily been the Eagles' strength, because the Eagles have been weird on offense all year. And then again, Tampa depends on if they get hot. If Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and company are able to take advantage of that Eagles secondary, they got a shot. But it's hard for me to pick against this Eagle team simply because of the talent that they have. So I'm gonna go Eagles.
Rick.
This is gonna be a solid game. I think the Eagles probably, of all the teams in the playoffs, the Eagles obviously benefit the most from having to play that last game of the weekend, like Travis mentioned, specifically as they wait out to see what level Hurts and AJ Brown are going to be at by the time kickoff rolls around on Monday. So having that extra time to kind of make sure they get right is going to be extremely important for them, right? This is a game we saw a couple years back as well in the wild card round. Obviously, things were way different back then. You had one Tom Brady as the quarterback of the Bucs, and I remember back then picking the Eagles to upset to go into Tampa and actually upset.
Rick, we lost your video, bro. Your webcam.
Yeah, hold on.
We hear you, but we can't see you.
Let me switch just in case I had a different cam. All right. Yeah. So. Yeah, so I remember picking the Eagles to actually upset Brady in that game, right? The biggest thing down here, there's so many Eagles fans down here in Central Florida. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like of all other teams I've ever seen travel, not to say travel, like just actually live here. Eagles are right there at the top of the list. So that stadium is going to be jam-packed with green. That's going to help a whole lot, right? Baker been cooking though, man. The Bucs don't look that bad. This is again another team similar to the Texans that coming into the season, there wasn't a lot of high hopes for to make the playoffs, let alone win a division and host a playoff game. So I don't think it's going to be a rollover type situation, even if the Eagles come in hot and healthy. We've seen them kind of stumble to the finish line here down the stretch of the season, the past 3 or 4 weeks. It's been shaky for the Eagles, so like Travis said, super wild card of wild cards throughout this weekend. I think they're gonna have just enough to get over the hump, but again, depending on what those injury statuses look like going into Monday, this is probably the one and only game of the weekend that I'm not 100% sure of. Today, right now, I will lean and pick the Eagles. But by the time we kick off on Monday, I could easily be swayed and think the Bucs can be able to take it.
Right.
Manny.
Give me the Eagles by a touchdown.
That's simple.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna root for the Bucs ever, so that's one thing. Again, you want me to be on my Cat Williams and start calling out everybody?
He gonna always find a way to bring it back to them Raiders, boy. I'm telling you. You ever notice with Manny answers the simple ones? If it's the simple one, it ain't got a Raiders connection.
Ian Rappaport just reported that tight end Mark Andrews set for return for the Ravens.
Yeah, I saw that. That's massive.
Huge.
That's massive.
Even though they're on the bye week, they're not playing this week. Huge news, because guess what? That means he'll be ready to go by next week.
And that just adds another weapon.
Yeah.
And shout out to them and their training staff and their medical team, everybody, because when he went down initially, everybody was pushing for IR. There was a lot of IR talks done for the season and whatnot, and they were like, we're not going to put him on the IR. We'll figure it out. So shout out to them for making the right decision there.
We will be back on Sunday because that kind of gives us a bridge to review games and also change your picks if you want to change your picks for the games that you just made just now.
I mean,
so we'll have a regular 12 p.m. slot. What's up?
It's going to be great for Sunday, but I say we also do a Monday preview too.
Well, that's Smoke and Mirrors time. You got to talk to them about that. That's not on my
time. No. I'm not saying on their time. Nah, shout out to Smoke and Mirrors. Like, they get their time. I'm saying earlier for us.
If you guys
Little
want, you
12
guys
o'clock.
want to do a 12
Little-
o'clock Monday
little 12
recap,
o'clock.
we'll see. I'll see what I'm doing. I'll see what I mean. Like I said, I've been off the last 3 weeks, so
Yeah, it ain't like you got anything to do during the day on Monday.
Yeah,
Right, you know
unless
what I mean?
unless
Nothing
Devin and I
going on.
got plans to do something on Monday mid noon. If you guys
I
are free,
mean,
we can do
ain't like the NBA need that time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
nah, ain't nothing going on during the day on Monday. Pull up and let's talk football,
Right,
man.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
Enjoy the
you
games
know.
on Saturday. Rick, good luck. We'll be back on Sunday for our regular 12
Appreciate
o'clock time slot. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all Hitless content. This video is also available on YouTube. We'll definitely be sharing it for those who want to preview the game. And you can check us out on all social media platforms. And we'll see you guys back here on Sunday. You guys take care. Enjoy.
Yep.